to my growth group. The topic is an overview of Ngonnso history from Tikal to an overview of Ngonnso history from Tikal to Ngonnso. During the cultural week of 1981, I presented a paper on Ngonnso plans and Ngonnso history in the form of a public lecture and Ngonnso to a large audience, which included His Royal Highness the Ngonnso, the Senior Divisional Officer Wing, the Bai and Atala, and visiting dignitaries. In 1996, I was invited to present a paper on Ngonnso traditional setup, which I did to a small academic and minded group in Ngonnso. This time, I have been asked to present an overview or general understanding of Ngonnso history from origin to Ngonnso, at a cultural festival named after Ngonnso, the matriarchal leader and initiator of the Ngonnso dynasty. The understanding that there are other versions of the tradition. Oral traditions of the various people of Ngonnso land, including the dynasties, clans, sub-clans, and lineages, families, having that the expansion of Ngonnso from its nucleus at Oricon, Kiaratakor, began under the founding of the first dynasty by Ngonnso's son or husband in about the 14th century. The growth was achieved through incorporation of refugees, joining by incoming migrant groups, conquest of forceful submission of some, addition of new territorial acquisitions by offshoots with close paternal bonds with the main, and exposure of those not ready to accept the paramount authority of Ngonnso. As Europeans bring our land, the scale had reached its fullest extent. The sort tradition of not eliminating incorporated dynasties made it possible for several royal clans to continue to exist in the realm under the paramountcy of Ngonnso. But because those royals, either separated from the dynasty, claimed to originate directly from Tikal like Ngonnso or from other Tikal-derived groups, they all directly or indirectly have a link with Ngonnso and are therefore branches of or around Ngonnso. Except for the Oku and Noni royals and people, all are Ngonnso speaking and Ngonnso in sentiment, tradition, and culture. From Tikal to Kro, Ngonnso was a princess of Tikal who left Kimi, Bankin, in the region of Obama with a small band of followers in pursuit of her elder brothers who campaigned after losing a violent succession feud. But Ngonnso never caught up with her brothers and took a different direction at the river crossing, which they had allegedly crossed and destroyed to prevent her following them. She went upstream along the bank of that river and then westward to a plain now known as Ngonnso, where they pitched a temporary camp or settlement near a cave known since as Ngonnso. While at Ngonnso and her followers were joined by more migrants from other parts of Tikal, fleeing their country for the same or other reasons. Some of these would merge or become part of Ngonnso's community shortly after or much later. It is probably at Ngonnso that the group began to be referred to as Ngonnso, evidently after Ngonnso. It is also believed that Ngonnso at this time was still a young spinster. That is, if her name was not descriptive of a young lady called Ngonnso. The group left the veteran Ngonnso traveling up the valley of River Myrin to another location since known as Ngonnso, where they set up another temporal settlement. From Ngonnso, she and her enlarged moved to another place, later named Oricon, where they met a small group of autochthonous people known as this island, known other areas as Ngonnso as Ngonnso hereafter. Visa people received Ngonnso and her people very positively and soon recognized her leadership and authority. The amalgamation of the two peoples will further constitute the nucleus of the sub-state of today. The Visa we are recognized as the fathers of the land and Ngonnso family as royals. The first one is believed to have been Ngonnso's son or husband, since a woman is not crowned from speaker tradition. It was further agreed with the Visa that the mother of any future sub-form must be of the entire clan. The Visa clan is the oldest in Seoul, though one of the smallest today. There are no villages or sub-villages today are the Gion people in the villages of Banten, Kiyan, and probably the Gion of Langa. Another identified autonomous land in the vicinity of Kowen was reached there, but whose members did not welcome her and her people was Ngonnso. After a small war, we saw some Ngonnso people fled to Suli, others to Mo and to Mo, leaving only a few families in Seoul. The Ngonnso people in Seoul are today found at Pitikela Zone, Mo Zone, Mba, Ngonnso Sikui Zone, and Ngonnso Sikui Zone. The Seoul royal dynasty lived at Seoul for a very long time, from the late 14th or early 15th century until the end of the 18th or first decade of the 19th century. During that time, the state continued to grow in population and to expand territorially as more migrant clans and chieftains from every direction joined and accepted the leadership of Ngonnso for reasons of security and protection. The chieftains of Gashon, Ron, Guan, and Joko. Kalku, a chieftain and war, was an enemy by great war at war after surrendering his Meron society and accepting the authority of Ngonnso. Kalku villages are being found in many villages, all of them recognizing the great war in that region in the war as planted. And to be found in more than 10 villages or so. The meeting possibly split off from King and Mo and had to be found today at Kiteu and Vekovi, where they were possibly the earliest settlers. Water from Tara belongs to the meeting clan. King is a large clan with many villages in several sub-villages. The Lunine, part of the Timber, branched off from Jidul and Mo and came early to Ko, where the divisive was offered after submission to Ngonnso. During the transfer of Prof to Ko, the Lun group divided into three equal villages known now as Lun Kibai, Lun Moteri, and Lun Ngonnso. The Gashon, Ron, and Chokro chieftains were involved at the same time as Kalku. They allied with Ngonnso and accepted the authority of Ngonnso, who allowed them to keep the royalties in their families. The three chieftains have maintained close relations among themselves ever since, to the extent that each confided to the others the name of his successor, who would be installed after he died. After Ngonnso had rescued the enslaved prince in Suli, who was enthroned, he was elevated to the first position among the five men of the ahead and who should find Ngonnso is head. Ngonnso is head of this large clan, which originated from Suli side and now has villages in many villages. The Yoruba and Ngonnso sub-clans are descended from the Seoul royalty and were elevated to vice-chief and councillors after losing the contest for throne to keep the foreign company and advising. Towards the end of the 18th century, two very serious devastating attacks were launched on the state at all. The first, probably by Fulani cavalry soldiers, known in Seoul as Baranyam, destroyed the palace and forced the dynasty to take temporary refuge at Tamisa, where the fleeing form later died and was buried. At that time, the Khan dynasty was located at Chisholm and Igbo before it was later displaced to its present site at Konkan. The flight from Kor is believed to have taken the form to Ngonnso forest and then to Garissa. It is probably just before the flight or at Ngonnso that two Ngonnso princes separated from the dynasty to set up their own conscience, one at Oku and the other at Bien. How their dynasties originated, both claimed to be brothers of Ngonnso, whose seniority they recognized and respected. The dynasty at Garissa later returned to Kor after Khan returned, and the palace was rebuilt. It was still before the end of the 18th century. The influx of refugees on the trails of Baranyam led to the stratification of such society into four social categories. These were royals, including descendants of the fourth, with the fourth generation through the sons, and third through the daughters. The Kabian royals, two, including the descendants of the fourth, from the fifth and fourth generation, through sons and daughters respectively. Three commoners, including early inhabitants of Kor and Sudan, and retailers, which is allowed, including people from lineages that have a liability to service in the sub-palace. Members of the four categories, like members from clans and villages, were dispersed throughout the numerous villages of Ngonnso. The second devastating attack at Kor occurred around 1800 or before the second decade of the 19th century. This attack precipitated the final abandonment of the Kor settlement and the move to Kibor, present-day capital of the Ngonnso state. By 1825, Kibor was already well settled and recognized all around as the new market center and capital of Ngonnso. It is conjectured that the Ngonnso war in Konkan, who had dug a defensive trench around their kingdom, took place just before the final abandonment of Kor, or at the time of the settlement in Kor. It was after this war that Kor was fully incorporated into the Ngonnso Mountain. Some remnants of the Kor clan, who were not displaced at the time of the move from Chisholm and Kor, were incorporated separately and are known today with prefixes or suffixes attached to their casket, for example, Kapun and Sylvia. The same can be said of lineages of Oku, Niamey, and Bama extraction. They too have prefixes or suffixes to their stem and are loyally attached to Ngonnso. The move to Kibor. During the years before the actual move to Kibor, Ngonnso established authority over the then incorporated the very large dog clan with 3 sub-clans, 2 at the Timu and the royalty answer, and the Ngonnso, who are divided into sections and largely settled in Kaibalapi. Both dog and Ngonnso villages and sub-villages are found in the various villages of Ngonnso. The dog sub-clans trace their origin to Zulu, Sai, and beyond. And the main Doru and Doru great lords of the Timu were not settled there or elsewhere in Scotland about the early period of Kor. It is for this reason that the dog are Mutara. The Ngonnso people found in various villages are said to have been started by a prince of Ngonnso during the Symposium at Garissa following a disciplinary exclusion. He tried to set up a dynasty but was eventually recognized and incorporated as a Big or Great Lord of the entire category. The subdivision of Ngonnso are the Sunda, the Ngonnso Shah, and others who are not of Sunda or Shah lineages. The Sunda, Doru, and Doru Great Lords are the only 3 divided off in the Mountain. During the early years of the Kibor settlement, the fund decided to reorganize the state militia of Ngonnso, following a new attack which destroyed the new capital in order to be able to confront future aggressors expand and neutralize unsubdued treatment in the neighborhoods. Is to go near the front of SOC and the Commander-in-Chief. This division was gradually enforced by a network of fraternities located in the capital and different villages of SOC, Joro, Film, Nikon, Peri, Saba, and Ba. Each incorporated dynasty was designated as belonging to Ba or Grand Sector. The reorganization of Manton made SOC stable, attractive to migrant groups, and a safe haven for refugees and for refugee peoples from neighboring groups. Wars of expansion, defensive wars against aggressors, and resistant wars against colonization in quick succession. Expansionist wars, the non-immediate chieftains of Jotin, Dom, Linum, Lasin, and Kor accepted the raw authority of Ngonnso and were incorporated. But it was so easy against chieftain, which and categories and so in the first and against German colonization, proving down months in Nigeria. We are supported by the army who hoped to recover the soil and power of the slave monarch, older grassroots people waiting for the money. It was a billion to be enforced and fight a long war. The early trials of the start to really powerful, chased some warriors from village to village, looting and killing and hoping to capture the fort. Then so we are overwhelmed, and rather than allow the foreign surrender and agreed to pay tribute. At the time of the coming of the Germans, beginning in 1902, its fullest extent, sharing boundaries with Somali, in the north, in the northwest and west, the great kingdom of in the south, and in the east. The last new people that migrated to South and were incorporated in the early 20th century were the thousands of Nigeria who
There's something called Samba. If I ask some of the people dancing Samba, why are you calling it Samba? How did it begin? We have something called Fu. The Fu begin from still and something. When we say that, and I have here on the newspaper, 2 years ago, did we have two or did we have boundary? These are questions that philosophers ask, which many people do not often ask. He writes here, worshiping God or the ancestors. Do we worship ancestors or do we honor them? These are questions that many of us come here and watch people watching the God and they're dancing and enjoying. If you stop even the God, people are asked, what is God? They are not even asked. If you ask the people, yesterday the Wanabu was displayed, what is the Wanabu? You ask the women are dancing Chong Kaka. So when I talk about philosophy and religion, I don't intend to give you a lecture. I'll be very straightforward. 6 points I want to make. Europeans especially made us Africans to believe that we don't have anything to offer because we don't have the brains to think. And sometimes we give the room to believe this because we don't often ask very random questions. They also made us believe that we did not have a religion. That's why every time we went to make our sacrifices or pour libation, it was called Jew and Garlic. So our own was non-religion, their own was religion. So do we have a religion? Is religion only what has come from the white man? No. These are questions that we need to start asking. We were told, and it is in writing, that Africans do not have the intellect for philosophical reasoning. That means we cannot reason philosophically. And we ask ourselves, what is philosophy? Philosophy is the ability to use your intelligence to ask the question why until the last why has been asked. Until the last why has been asked and answered, you have not yet reached philosophy. So when we start saying we have a Ngonnso festival, we ask ourselves, we are calling someone Ngonnso. Who was Ngonnso? I think Ngonnso was a woman, the leader of Ngonnso. Why is it that the father of Ngonnso cannot be a woman? If we are saying that we come from a certain place called Tika, is there a place in this world called Tika? Or is it a description of a certain aspect or attitude? Timikali. Where do we belong? These are questions that should start exciting young scholars to ask, so that we are not left with just what the English people will call catamite. We are just left with stories. I and go, you and I will not give an answer. Do we have a philosophy? If anybody tells you that we don't have a philosophy, the man is telling you that you cannot think. The difference between a dog and a goat and a human being lies in the fact that I have a brain and a dog has no brain. And we are good with you. Should your ear and the mind come as soon as you do your number. If this came at the rampart, you came with here, you okay with it. Rampart is changing one before we feel, when I feel the gender of fee as you okay with it. Philosophy originates from the fee we are getting. That's why philosophy comes from. As long as you have the intellect, you can have the capacity for philosophy. And in philosophy, they say that if you understand the way somebody thinks, you understand the way he worships God, you have understood that person. So until you understand how the man thinks and how he worships his God, you have not understood. So you can come for 700 in Ngonnso festival, but as long as you don't understand how a man thinks and how he worships his God, you have not understood the man. And that is what I want us to analyze briefly. There are three things that happened. That's the second thing I'm going to say. There are three things that happened that should have made all of Africa jump, but we didn't catch on it and the whites took it off. First thing was, on the 7th of July, 1957, Dr. and Mrs. Mary Leakey, they were two British people, discovered the oldest fossil, the oldest skeleton of the human being at the old Dubai Valley in Tanganyika, the present-day Tanzania, in East Africa. It may not sound something intelligent to some of you, but it means that the first human being on earth was not found anywhere else, it was found in Africa. So if there was ever a garden of Eden, the garden of Eden was in Africa. And so Africa, far from being called the dark continent, is the cradle of humanity. That's what human beings take on. Now, why people will know what is here? Because they have appropriated themselves, and we Africans have not been able to accept and make use of that. I usually make a fun of it, even to white, and say, one thing that shows that we Africans are more than you is that in me, I have all the colors of the human being. I am black. If I use green, I become white. If I further use green, I become the Japanese red color. If I further use another green, I become the red Indian. And so in one Africa, you got all the colors. The second thing that happened in the 1990s. And this will tickle a a lot of scholars. We have often been told that philosophy began in ancient Greece, and that Thales, Anaximenes, and Socrates were the fathers of philosophy. This is what students are taught. Now we have discovered, and it is a fact, that actually Anaximenes, Thales, Anaximenes, and Socrates got their wisdom from African sages in Egypt and along the banks of the River Nile. So in fact, philosophy did not begin in Greece, it began in Africa. But since we Africans don't know how to accept what belongs to us, we make the mistake of thinking that we have nothing to offer. And the white man who wants to take off everything takes it and goes. And we are now left as beggars of the world, in a world where we should be giving to others. Philosophy began in Africa. Many of you, especially students, get frightened by mathematics. And they think that mathematics is a white man thing. I am happy to tell you that Pythagoras of Samos actually learned his mathematics from along the banks of the River Nile. And that the first civilization in the world, after the ancient, we're not talking about ancient Indian side, but that the first civilization in the old world was on the banks of the River Nile. We often say that our people don't have religion, it is paganism. That's what it's called. And the early missionaries told us that it was you and Monday, and that if you went to church, you could not go where you are going. We are told that we worship so many gods, as if that came from Europe. The idea of one God, of having one God, came actually from the Egyptian pharaoh Amenophes the Fourth. The idea of having one God came from Egypt, not from Europe. So if in fact people had the chance to boast about having brought monotheism to the world, it is Africa, not Europe. And Africans are not political. There's no pagan in Africa, no pagan. A pagan is the Latin word paganus, which means a non-believer. No one in Africa, at least not in some, is a pagan, because he believes in some being, in some supernatural being. That is why, before we began the Ngonnso, we went to offer a sacrifice in honor of our ancestors and in honor of the God of our ancestors. If you watch every traditional society, before they start drinking, somebody takes palm wine and goes to the lintel of the door, makes an incantation and pours a little on front of the door before they start drinking. It is an acknowledgement that we have got somebody superior to us. That is their prayer before drinking. It is us, the young people, who don't even know that we should first pay allegiance to God before anything. Having said these three things, I go to the third thing that I was going to say. I promised you 6 things. I've said the two, not the third. Do we have philosophy as Africans? I've said it began in Africa. Obvious answer would now be, yes, we have a philosophy. For a long time, there was a big argument about whether the concept of African philosophy was worth it or not. The scholars now say that that is past tense. In the present tense, Africans definitely have a philosophy. And in order to show that we have a philosophy, I will take the 7 philosophical questions. There are 7 questions in philosophy which form the basis of philosophy. The 7 philosophical questions are: 1. The question of how the world came to be, cosmological question. The Greek philosophers were called cosmologists because they asked questions and said the world came from water, the world came from fire. For us in Ngonnso, we have a concept of Pichukensai. and Kitugan side involved everywhere. But for us to solve people, we have the concept of one, and one refers to solve. As long as you don't belong to solve, you are individual. You are not one. That is why that explains to you, and you need to understand that, and don't think that the soft man is being proud. No. A soft man will appear in Yaoundé and will call the Yaoundé people Itu. Because for him, the real one is one soft. And some man will appear in Douala and see people building, and they will say, wow, the one on top, there's so much land to strangers to build on. Because in his mind, one is God. That is why you have got some of our children studying outside, and they bring in concepts of titles that don't even are alien to the people, and you see that everyone should respect them. There's a guy here who comes from Scandinavia, and he has called himself Shane was Scandinavia. He takes himself as the ruler of the Scandinavian people. There's another one in the embassy, even before the Americans opened with their eyes, he calls himself Shane War Embassy. He's already imposed himself as the ruler of the people in the embassy. Our people, the result people, have this idea that one is one for. Anybody outside one for is will be do. The second question is, in philosophy, is what we would call the ontological question. It's the question of what is and what is not. A thing either is or it does not exist. And in so, we say, you know, the fact is, and the fact is, what are we doing in fact? But I'm doing what? If I think the so in so, the word expressing what a man would understand by existence. So existence also is expressed by the literal word. And when it is not, then some man will tell you his son or fear in order to wake the wakeness of it. And we seriously at that fear. It means you have no weight. You are nothing. You are animals. You are a person. Therefore, you are an animal. That's a logical statement which is correct. All top people are fools. You are a top man. Therefore, you are a fool. That is a correct, that's a logical statement. If you say that, I can tell you in Ngonnso, no, it is not true. But the logician is not interested in truth. The logician is interested in validity. The tall man is interested in the veracity of the argument, not the validity of the argument. So when you start talking and the tall man tells you, Lamont Benawi or Tami, you know that you are finished. Because once your language does not meet each other, you are telling a lie. And therefore, no matter how logical you are, the man will not listen to you. Why people who don't understand them will not understand that a man when he tells you no, it's no. Full stop. It's the same thing. What are we doing here? I'm starting to react to a man of prophecy. I'm starting to now. So I'm here to start to do some of us will not have answers. If I ask you why are you existing, some people start asking you what kind of question is that. But it is because you do not ask that question, you are not worth being alive. The Greek philosopher Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. If you cannot see and ask fundamental questions, you don't have any reason to be alive. So with the beard. Once the beard is not there, you are finished. But we can as you talk, I open the back. Once the soul was the life-giving principle for the soul. So as the living soul, the fact of all getting back to South Africa, it will be here. Not good. Who is the job? The father. What is Christianity today? The thing and last question, the 16th question is the futurological question. What is it that makes me believe you? What should I be worried? You know, if you look in very well in Cameroon and in the world, there will never, and I'm convinced about it, there will never be a successful politician from top. Not because they are not good politicians, they cannot be good politicians, it's because their culture makes it impossible for a top man to lead politics the way politics is seen in the third world. And so, the criteria for being a good person is honesty and truth. In politics, people lie. They tell all kinds of things. But in some man tells you, come to me, I will feel it, who's in the man. And some man doesn't change. Now people who don't understand this, start only some people about that. Calling them act like opposition. No. And so people are known for, if I have said yes, it is yes. If it is no, it is no. Full stop. And if you are coming anywhere in this Cameroon and you find one person against 50 people and being very serious about this point, believe me, the 3/4 of the chances is that this is a top man. Because once he has put up his resistance, he talks and talks with authority. I have said it. Once you start mimicking your language, those who are told that you know, they start telling you as you soon as language they are no longer talking straight up. And nobody listens to you anymore. You are just before. I'm so intimidated. And that is what people need to understand to know why the top man is the way he is. The last question, or the last one, is the ethical question. The question of what is right and what is wrong. In so, I don't with me. You can have everything you want. You can be the richest person, but are bullied by the sun. In so, what matters is Lee. And that is why Lee Wong is the standard for ethics in so. Am I you are no argument. And the last question is the theological question. A question which nobody needs to ask himself because it is obvious. You don't ask himself, man, you Sajah, and you Google together. For us, for our people, from the word go, I challenge you and me to you. Neither winner. In fact, the concept of me does not even start an argument because it's not one of those things you argue about. It is obvious. It is self-evident. God exists. When we come to, from there, in some culture and religion interact. You cannot have culture without religion and no religion without culture. And so culture is religious, so religion is culture. That's why you cannot be a strong man and be at the same time an atheist. That's why you cannot say that I'm practicing culture in so, but I don't believe in religion. Because there is no so without a culture and no culture without a religion. I had a friend, a German friend, who saw a soup made of scorpions, with scorpion candy. And he went and started buying it. And I said, no, you can't sit on that. He said, why? It's just beautiful art. No, it is not just beautiful art. The scorpion for the soft man is an oracle. No, and he said no. And that is why the scorpion, although it's a work of art, it is a source of wisdom for us. And you may call it paganism. But what we are believing now, the Greek philosophers went to the oracle at Delphi and got their wisdom from there. And our people get their own wisdom from the God. There is no culture in Seoul without religion. And in Seoul, whatever we do begins with religion and ends with religion. We begin by acknowledging our God, and that is why in Seoul, the first thing is there are six truths on which in Seoul traditional religion is built. The first is a belief in God. There is a supreme being. called Ngonnso. You cannot say that Ngonnso falls lightly. No, Ngonnso does nothing wrong. It's always good. But then Ngonnso does not appear to you directly. He comes through some secondary deities who are also responsible for certain parts of the village. So Ken Minoru, Ken Minosha, Ken Minoma, I know that the market acceptation and if you forward the name in your shop. Those are what we call the deities. But I'm talking you're dying you chapel on because you can and you know the government is against you. And so we have got what we call the principalities or divinity. They do nothing good except destroy. And so in some philosophy, we have got two forces fighting, one good and one evil. That's the second stone of biblical religious belief. The third is a concept which the church has now taken over. It's the concept of the ancestors. I went once to Lycom, and the father took me to the and when I reached there, I noticed when they were making a sacrifice, they called the names of all the fawns buried on the right, but they did not call the names of the fawn buried on the left. The first fawn on the right was Jinabo. I won't tell you who was on the left. But all the fawns buried under Jinabo, their names are pronounced, and all the names on the left, no one pronounces them. When I asked why, they told me these ones are good fawns. These ones are very bad. So they have already made their own distinction and canonized heaven and hell. And listen to the incantation. There are certain forms of talk whose names can never be pronounced. And in our tradition, a title holder who lives a good life is the one who qualifies to be an ancestor. You are the reasons among the Alpha are those who qualify because they were title holders whom we now call Ayedela or Ayedero. They actually are given the titles of gods. Those are the ancestors. And that's why the Catholic Church has taken over the concept of ancestors as fitting into the Catholic teaching on the communion of saints. The third and the thing that we need to understand is that there is the belief in the community, in the family, in the solidarity. Nobody knows you as an individual. They know you by your name. Each time I introduce myself to somebody, I am good. They start by saying, don't be all, friend. They give you your whole family tree. Just by hearing one name. And it is because if you enter somebody's house, even though you are out of the list of the last nobody asks you who are you at the one now. Once they hear your father's name, they lead you into where you belong. And that is because in thought, we often say the logic is I am because they are. And because they are, therefore I am. It is the parameter for ethics. This is the way things are done. This is the way they are not done. We also have to know something about our sacrifices and our offering. An offering, once and in India, is true. A sacrifice is done. A sacrifice of necessity must involve an animal and blood that will be slain. True, may or may not. So you have to ask yourself, in this particular instance, is it true or is it dowry? And often dowry will involve those who have died. But true may not necessarily be with those who have died. We don't have time to go into the burial dowry and true. We would have preferred to go into. The last thing I want to share with you is names. because I know some people look for out everywhere about this. You know, no man gives a name without a name. Every name in Saul has got a meaning. And if you start writing the story of one name, you will write a whole book. However, there are at least 6 categories of names. The first is historical names. If you listen to Professor Ngonnso, you will have heard him talk about Baranya. So in order to remember that, children are born and called Bara. It's a certain form of a long historical story. There are also names which are commemorative. If I hear some child called Mbilo from Saul, I know he's in the royal family. Full stop. It wouldn't belong there if you didn't have that name. If you didn't have it belong there, you wouldn't have that name. It's a name for remembering people who have gone before and who meant something to you. If you go to Mali and call the name Sundiata, they know it. Sumanguru, they know very well. So in some, when you say that I am a Bilo, they know immediately where you belong. It's a commemorative day. There is a third category, which is what we call euphoric names. Names which give a desire. Unfortunately now they are no longer making the official naming of children. But originally in Saul, when a child was born, they brought him to a soothsayer who threw his cowries and said this girl will be married to a common man. And so the child was called Big Wirkom. When they said Big Wirkom, we don't often understand that what it meant was the best thing you could have given somebody was for and not, and that is big. And since this child now has been proven that it will be given as for and not to the common, it is Big Wirkom, and so it is just given Big Wirkom. If he's going to be married to a proper woman, he is called the Wigo. And that is the way the names were given as a desire, a euphoric name for that one. There are names that are leading questions, that ask questions. We, Yaka, Ayamanka, Tanaka, these are names which ask questions and sometimes they don't expect answers. Sorry. It's a name that makes you think. The name that makes you ask very deep questions. Means the winner. You have to think very well before you can reason. And the last category are what I call moral invocations. They are names that are given so that the child may give to some moral objective. They're not common. For you. These are moral first names that we must all understand. As I said, we could have said more and more. I have here the faith of our ancestors, which puts in very, very simple language a book of 400 pages, and this is used and put in language that which you can understand, 248 pages, for you to see what I will say about the faith of our ancestors, the African traditional religion.